Hey, good evening, folks. My name is Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Serra. I am a former KC-135 pilot, as you can see above me here. And there's a lot to talk about. I wrote a few things in the header about what I want to talk about tonight, and hopefully get some of you on and talk to you about the ballistic missile fight that's going on. Obviously, airstrikes in Israel, Operation Midnight Hammer, and the continued Iranian ballistic missile launches. There's just some crazy things going on. So let's begin with Operation Midnight Hammer. Now, those of you who know me, I authored the book Tanker Pilot, Lessons from the Cockpit. I used to plan and execute these kinds of missions that happened over the weekend, global power missions. When I was the chief of the air refueling control team at the Prince Sultan Combined Air and Space Operations Center, this is exactly the kind of stuff that we had to coordinate. These global power missions, that's what we call them, of course, were part of the air campaigns over Afghanistan and subsequently the shock and awe campaign over Iraq. And there's a couple of things that I want to talk with you about, specifically elements of national power. The four elements of national power are diplomatic, informational, military, and economic. How you define those is obviously any country that has great influence diplomatically, informationally, military, economically, like the United States, we have a lot of power. I want to say a few things about those four elements when we talk about Operation Midnight Hammer. First of all, diplomatically. You don't do an operation, particularly a long-range operation like this, without a lot of coordination for country clearance. Not only for overflight, but for tanker basing. You just don't go park 38 tankers throughout Europe without talking to the Spaniards. In the case of Morone Air Base, where we had a lot of tankers. Let's see, Spangdahlem, Aviano, Mildenhall. All of those countries have to be coordinated with, because not only are you going to land forces in their at their bases, but you're going to fly through their airspace. So when you do that, you have to have diplomatic clearances. Now, the Air Operations Center at Scott Air Force Base, when I was there, had in the AOC, it's called the Tanker Airlift Control Center then, had one whole shop of about 5 or 6 people. That's all they did was request diplomatic clearances. And for Air Mobility Command, particularly, we go into a lot of crazy places. And so that diplomatic shop stayed very, very busy. Now, Mildenhall in Suffolk, England, that's a tanker base already. But again, we can plus that base up with more tankers. Morone Air Base, Spain, gets used sporadically, but particularly for this kind of event going on because of its location near the Straits of Gibraltar and, of course, the Mediterranean. Same with Aviano. Spangdahlem, not too far to get down into the Mediterranean. When I saw the 38 tankers flying that one night, I knew within 48 to 72 hours there was going to be a large airstrike, and it was probably going to involve B-2s. So the B-2s taking off, let me go back. Those 38 tankers were based out of New England, probably Portsmouth, used to be old Pease Air Force Base. Because the first place they normally refuel is over Nova Scotia. And, we have plane spotters now all over the world. And you have to understand, it isn't just at the fences of airfields. It's online. Because you have Flight Radar 24, Flight Aware, and you can follow these things. You can follow the tankers. And there's some great pictures from Flight Aware and Flight Radar 24. And it was in all the news of all the tankers heading east, northeast to position. Now, that tanker airbridge is sort of like a highway in the sky of gas stations. So that airplanes going to the Middle East have this long line of tankers to drag them over to the Middle East. There was fighters out of Seymour, fighters out of Spangdahlem, several bases, RAF Mildenhall, the F-35 squadron, the 495th. All of them were heading that way. F-22s from Langley. And folks, I'm not telling you anything that's classified. This was all in open sources. But again, my expertise is in these kinds of operations. So this airbridge was set up in order for the airplanes literally fly from Langley to, hey, Mick Jam, how you doing? Mike Jam, it's great to have you back on, brother. I know I've been gone a lot. I have been on the road a lot, and I'll explain that here in just a little bit. Let me go back to what I was talking about. So there's this bridge of tankers that literally can move the iron from the States. And I say iron, I mean bombers, fighters, reconnaissance and airplanes, intelligence collection like the RC-135s, not just the rivet joint, but the Cobra Ball and the WC-135, the Distant Phoenix, are really, really important right now. And how they got over there is, again, on this tanker airbridge. And that's what we call it, air bridging. The three reasons we have air refueling are extend the range, increase the payload, and lengthen the endurance of aircraft. And that's exactly what this bridge does. Increases range, endurance, and where the B-2s are concerned, they're carrying GBU-57 30,000-pound bombs, one in each side, 60,000 pounds of weapons. So that's a lot of weight. So this air bridge sets up and allows you to move aircraft into whatever theater. We would be doing the same thing if there was something going on in the PACOM region. And of course, as we all know, there was a decoy package of B-2s that went west. And, a crazy thing is, folks, you can go to San Francisco Center, a webpage, and actually listen to it all. You can go to Boston Center, their webpage, and you can listen to them all setting up. But normally, when you have a strike package of B-2s, somewhere in the Northeast is where they're going to refuel first. Most of the time, that's over Nova Scotia. It's called AR-209. And if you Google the air refueling map for the United States, it'll come right up on this map that depicts where all of the air refueling tracks are throughout the continental United States, and of course, just outside U.S. borders. AR-209 is used for a lot of things. I've been to it many times, often in the middle of the night. When I was at Pease Air Force Base at the 509th Air Refueling Squadron, we had a regular mission where we refueled C-141s about 1 o'clock in the morning. We'd meet up with them going to Europe. They were doing what's called channel missions, where they'd take cargo from the United States and basically run around in the European theater, and then 5 days later come back. So this AR-209 is hey, Brooks out. Welcome. Thank you for joining, Mick Jam and Brooks out. I appreciate you guys joining me tonight. So AR-209 is a very famous and very well-used air refueling track that basically runs over the top of Nova Scotia. And if you watched FlightAware and all of these tankers that were leaving the States and going over to Europe, a lot of them were going past AR-209. Now, the other reason AR-209 is important is because historically, that's the first place that the B-2s have refueled. If you're going to send 7 bombers over, you usually launch, I'll say, 2 airspares, 9 airplanes to get 7. And here's the reason behind that. Somewhere over New England or just past New England is the first air refueling point for the B-2s, where they test the air refueling systems to make sure that they're all good. Any airplane that air refueling system does not work is replaced by the air spare, and it turns around and goes home. The air spares are carrying the same ordnance. They have the same mission packages. They're all briefed up on the same missions, so that if one of the airplanes falls out, air spare jumps in, just like it was part of the normal package. Excuse me. Folks, we had a lot of high winds, 40-mile-an-hour winds here, and there's a lot of dust in the air, and I'm kind of feeling the effects of that in my throat. So anyway, bear with me if I cough a little bit. Anyway, so that air spare or air spares is pretty important. Historical example. When Kim Il-sung died in July of 94, we had a mini air campaign going on over South Korea. Kim Jong-un, who took over for his father, said, "I'm going to bury my dad in Seoul." Problem was, didn't own Seoul. And we saw movement of the North Korean forces that basically mirrored an invasion of South Korea. So Thursday afternoon, my boss, T-Mac, walked in and said, "Gents, we're going to have a long weekend." Pacific Air Force commander, on orders from the SecDef, stated that we would begin F-15 combat air patrols over Korea beginning Monday. A package would take off at 9 o'clock in the morning and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. 3 tankers, 14 F-15 C models or D models, depending on, what was on the schedule. And we were to do it all calm out. So I, of course, was the chief of tanker stuff there. And hey, Jason, welcome back. Auto Sports, welcome. Oh, you work for Grumman. Oh, excellent. Excellent. Great company. Anyway, back to this air campaign over South Korea. We'd launched 14 airplanes, and then we literally refueled almost after takeoff. we normally didn't do this, and it's kind of against the regs to do it, but we took off with the boom operator in the boom pod of the 135s. Now, it's not dangerous, to do that. I've been in the back many times on takeoff with the window open, but literally we took off, gear up, flaps up, accelerated to air refueling speed of 315 knots, put the boom down, and then had all the airplanes cycle through. We wanted to make sure that all 12 F-15s could take on gas. They were loaded with 2 bags, 2 external tanks, no live weapons, and only TP rounds, training rounds in the guns. One of the weapons officers says, "Okay, boss, when we're going to launch with live weapons?" He goes, "Absolutely not." And that was probably a smart thing. So between like 3,000 and 6,000 feet as we're accelerating and climbing, we were actually checking every one of the Eagle's systems out, their refueling systems out. And we gave them like 1,000 pounds, 1,500 pounds, just to make sure they could take on gas. And about 15 miles away from the base, all 12 airplanes, 5 on the front tanker, 5 on the middle tanker, and 4 on the back tanker, all checked good. Air refueling systems checked good. Airspares turned around, went home. And the other 12 F-15s continued on. Their call signs were blown 1-1 through 1-4, blown 2-1 through 2-4, blown BLOWN 3-1 through 3-4. And what they did was we had 3 cap lanes, west, a center, and an east, all pointed at the DMZ. About 10 miles south was the farthest wall, the northern wall. The other thing we did was we had all of the F-15s tuck up under the tankers, so it looked like one big radar blob. NAHA, air traffic control, asked us many times. Thanks, Derek. Welcome. NAHA kept asking us, how many in your formation? How many in your formation? And we just said, as filed. I told the crews, just say as filed. And they kept bugging us. How many is in your formation? How many's in your formation? Okay. Because we had a Russian trawler off the coast that was monitoring all of this, and we weren't about to let out, what we were doing. Okay. And so I told the crews, just shut up. I was in the front tanker. I was not flying. I was just watching everything going on from the jump seat. And I told the crew, third time, don't answer them. Of course, they came back the third time, Kobe flight, state number and information. And I just said, quit talking to him. Quit talking to him. And at that point, we were what we call due regard, where we basically become our own air traffic control, and we have to watch out where everything is. And we didn't have Pacer Crag at the time. Anyway, we continued on with everything tucked up under us, all 4 F-15s, literally under my wings, like a chicken with her little chicks. We got to a pre-brief point, and all of the F-15s exploded off the tankers and climbed to 32,000 feet. I'll never forget this. Weeby Young, weapons officer in the 67th, said, "Blowns, disperse now," or something to that effect. "Blowns, push purple 1 cap points now." And the airplanes, F-15s, just literally climbed right off underneath us and went to their 4-ship cap points. Every stinking radar in the 200 miles from the DMZ in North Korea turned on and was looking at us. And we had an RC-135 rivet joint that was flying at 32,000 feet, collected every stinking emission from those airplanes. One's a little scary because the SA-5, which the North Koreans have, and it's a long-range missile, and it's massive. The Navy saw them launch at Libya during the Libya raid, and you can see them from like 80 miles away. But the problem is their radar doesn't change to a high pulse repetition frequency. It's constant. And man, we collected everything, man. It was awesome. Then at 4 o'clock in the evening, we had another 14 ship F-15s, 3 ship of tankers launch, and we did it all calm out. Lights from the tower, green light, tankers went first, got the green light, and we were kind of worried about not seeing the green light. No problem seeing that green light at 9 o'clock in the morning or at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That green light came up bigger than Dallas, man. And so the tankers launched first, the 14 F-15s launched next. And you know what, folks? That's one of the pictures that I'll never forget in my mind until the day I die, was being at low altitude, watching all of those F-15s join on us outside the wings. I mean, just great, great picture in my mind. Michelle, good evening. Thanks for joining. Lenora, appreciate you joining also. What I'm talking about is a mini air campaign over South Korea when the grandfather, Kim Jong-il, died. And the father of the current guy said, I'm going to bury my dad in Seoul. So what we did was we had these caps going. Well, a tanker airbridge set up, and F-15Es from Alaska came down, the 90th Fighter Squadron, the Paradise. F-117s, they came down. A-10s from Alaska came down, all on the peninsula. And oh, congratulations, Michelle, to your new grandbabies, your twins. Congratulations. So this little mini air campaign is going on down there. And what this is called a flexible deterrent option. And this was a contingency plan that we had on the shelf that we could pull off at any point in time in case the North Korean leadership got frosty. And flexible deterrent option, or FDOs as we call them, these contingency plans are designed to de-escalate the situation, not escalate, but de-escalate, and to show the North Korean leadership your father's funeral plans in Seoul come at a great cost. And this went on for about 2 weeks. We would take off every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 9 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But the tankers were going constantly. And we only had 15 tankers at Kadena at the time, and it almost wore us out. Matter of fact, we ran out of flying hours, our allotted flying hours, in July. The 909th Air Refueling Squadron flew an entire year's worth of flying time in 7 months. And we had to go to PACAF headquarters and get some more. And I'll talk about that here in just a minute. So the Strike Eagles were getting gas. Obviously, the 2 F-16 squadrons at Kunsan, the F-16 A-10 squadrons at Osan. The South Korean Air Force was very actively engaged in all this. And one night, I was flying in one of the whiskey areas that had an anchor in it. It was an east-west left-hand turn anchor, about 70-mile long legs, 30 miles wide, 35 miles wide, to refuel F-117s. And at that time period, 1994, if F-15Es, or F-117 showed up in your region, that was a big, big deterrent, because we knew the North Korean radars couldn't see it. And now with the F-22 and the F-35, you know, it's like quantum leaps forward than the F-117. And the funny thing is, we were about one box or two boxes south of the DMZ. And every time the F-117s came off the tanker, they went north. Every time. And I think what they were doing was testing the system. Okay, let's go all the way up the Yellow Sea, all the way up to near Pyongyang, and let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. And nothing happened because they couldn't see him. You know, it's old Soviet equipment. The North Koreans do not fly at night, have very limited Air Force, MiG-29s, lots of MiG-21s. And there was one time where things got kind of tense, where MiG-21s were down close to the border. And one of my good friends in one of the squadrons, you know, was like, yeah. Michelle, great question. I misspoke. It was the F-117s, not the F-15s. Okay. We wanted the North Koreans to see the F-15s, particularly the C models and the CAPs, combat air patrols that were west, center, and east, basically in lanes, 3 lanes. We wanted them to see the F-15Es because it's a signal to them, don't do it. Don't do this. So that little mini air campaign, like I said, lasted for 2 weeks. Then finally, they said, yeah, okay, we're going to bury my dad. And nothing happened. But it made none of the news. We kept it really quiet what was going on, okay? And, you know, they were talking about the state funeral, you know, of the grandfather, all that kind of stuff. But nobody knew that there's this little mini air war going on in what we call this flexible deterrent option, that we had Hogs, Strike Eagles, F-15 light grays. We had F-16s from Alaska. We had the F-117s. I think they were at Holloman at that time. All of them flying missions. And the tankers really, really busy, because not only were we refueling the fighters, but you have to remember the RC-135 rivet joints flying. Whenever the F-15s were flying to their cap points, E-3 Sentry AWACS plane was flying. It needs gas every 5 hours, 80,000 pounds. Same with the RC-135 rivet joint. Some of the 3-hour vulnerability times, as we call them, the U-2 spy plane out of Osan would be the intelligence collector. And then sometimes it was the RC-135. So when you have contingency plans like for Midnight Hammer, that was probably a shelf plan, a flexible deterrent option or contingency plan, and has been for a long while. And the reason I say that is because the GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator, it was made specifically for an airstrike on Fort Dow enrichment facility in that mountain. So when you see this airbridge stand up, and again, all of these online airplane spotters showing, hey, here we go, you know, these airplanes are going over there, you can pretty much bet that fighters, reconnaissance, and bombers are heading somewhere. Going east, it's always up near the northeast somewhere, depending on the bases that they're coming out of. A lot of the KC-46s and KC-135s will stop at Pease Air Force Base, or Air National Guard bases, it's called now. That was my first base of assignment. Massive, massive ramp. There's a FBO there, a commercial fixed base operator there called Port City Air. I will actually be back in Portsmouth in September speaking Port City Air has been gracious enough to bring Val and I back there. So we'll be back there for the air show in September at Pease Air Force Base with the Blue Angels. But again, when you have these flexible deterrent options going, the very first thing to move is tankers, because they set up the air bridge, they set up the highway in the air that takes everybody over. And there's a lot of politics that go on behind setting up that air bridge, because you need diplomatic clearance through Canadian airspace, European airspace, through the Mediterranean. And I want you to remember also, you're dealing with 3 different major commands. You're dealing with North Command. You're dealing with UCOM, and you're dealing with CENTCOM. And so there's a lot of coordination that has to go through all of those 3 headquarters or their air operations centers when you do something like this. And I'm pretty sure they brought a contingency plan in a bag off a shelf and polished it off and worked on some things. Army 3275, welcome. So RDC Autosports, I said on X that Iran will never see it coming and they won't know till it's over. Everyone thought I was lying. Nope, you weren't lying, brother. RDC, you were not lying, because all the reports are that this entire strike package of over 100 airplanes, I think 125 airplanes, went into Iranian airspace, was there for probably an hour, and left Iranian airspace, and not one shot was fired. Not a AAA gun, not a surface-to-air missile, nothing. And I think that's because the Israeli Air Force has done a real number on the air defense network. But we also have what we call kinetic means. In other words, you're dropping bombs or firing high-speed anti-radiation missiles at the radars. But we also have non-kinetic means of doing it. If you want to read about the non-kinetic takedown of an integrated air defense, go Google or go on to Wikipedia, and it's called Operation Out of the Box, that the Israelis did in September of, I think, 06 or 07, when they went and bombed, imagine that, a nuclear reactor that was being developed and had been built and was almost ready to put fuel rods in, north of a town called Deir ez-Zor, Syria. Israeli F-16 Sufas and F-15Es went in there, dropped GPS-guided weapons, and now you can go on YouTube, and there's actually video of them dropping on this thing. They call it Operation Out of the Box because they put this great big huge box building over the top of it, so it didn't look like a nuclear plant. So this is kind of the second, no, I take that back. This is the third time the Israelis have gone after a nuclear program somewhere in the Middle East. The first time was during the Reagan administration, when they went to Baghdad and bombed the Osirak nuclear reactor south of Baghdad. Lenora, I'd love to talk about that. Lenora, remind me about that, the F-15s going by on 9/11. And I'll tell you a great story. My Aunt Jill, may she rest in peace, died of cancer a few years back, was on the ground near the towers on 9/11. And I'd love to tell you that story. So remind me. Mike Jam, please. I'll be there both days. Okay. As a matter of fact, I'll be there the day before the air show. Okay. So if you're there, come find me. I'll probably be with the Port City Air folks. Anyway, back to what I was talking about. 3 times the Israelis have gone after nuclear programs in the Middle East. Excuse me, twice. The Americans have now done it once. So in 1980s, they went after the Baghdad reactor. In September of 2006, they went after the Syrian reactor. And then, of course, now we've gone after the Iranian reactor. Let me talk about that real quick. Let me keep going here. Information. So I said diplomatic. There's a lot of diplomatic stuff that goes on when you do an operation like this. There's a lot of phone calls on Stu 3 phones, secret phones, to develop the airspace and the bed down for all the airplanes going over. More than likely, when the fighters left the States, they flew all the way there to their bases. Sounds like they've kind of spread out through the Middle East. That's about a 15-hour flight from the States, according to a bunch of my fighter buds. Long time to be in a fighter cockpit on an ejection seat. Boring, So, yeah, Operation Opera. You're absolutely correct. Informationally, there's a lot of video of Natanz, and there's a lot of pictures of the 3 holes, or actually 6 holes, in the top of the mountain. And I want all of you to remember, you can have a military and an informational flexible deterrent option. The best example is the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962. Now, Strategic Air Command's after action report, it's called Strategic Air Command Operations During the Cuban Crisis of 1962. Let me say it slower so that you can write this down. Strategic Air Command Operations During the Cuban Crisis of 1962. It is now declassified from top secret, and it goes through everything Strategic Air Command did. The intelligence collection section of this thing is chilling. The air-breathing bomber tanker section is even more chilling. We had 1,003 tankers on alert. We had B-52s flying what we call Chrome Dome missions, Operation Chrome Dome, which was airborne alert. And on, I think it was the 7th of November, 72 B-52s were in the air, all carrying 4 nuclear weapons to get the Russians to back down. And I mean, just crazy stuff. Okay. If you Google Strategic Air Command Operations During the Cuban Crisis of 1962, it'll come up as a PDF off of a Cuban Missile Crisis website. It's pretty lengthy, but it goes into incredible detail about what was happening. The U-2 missions were called brass knob missions. The low-level missions with the F-8, RF-8 Crusaders were called Blue Moon missions. And the reason that's important is because Kennedy administration went to the UN with Ambassador of the UN, Adlai Stevenson. The Russian ambassador's name was Zorin. This is really well depicted in a movie, by the way, with Kevin Costner. And Adlai Stevenson said to Zorin, "What are you guys doing in Cuba?" And Zorin says, "I don't have to tell you." "No, you're on the world court. You have to tell us what's going on. What is going on? Are you, in fact, putting offensive, long, medium, intermediate range ballistic missiles in Cuba?" He goes, "I don't have to answer to you. We'll tell you soon enough." And Adlai Stevenson comes up with a great line from an ambassador. I am here to wait till hell freezes over for you to tell me. And Zoran just, everybody laughs, but Zoran just says, I ain't doing it. And so Adlai Stevenson says, well, folks, do you want to see what's happening in Cuba with respect to medium and intermediate range ballistic missiles that Russia is putting in there? And of course, everybody went, yeah. And that's when he brought out the U-2 photographs and the RF-8 low altitude pictures. So that's an example of a military and an informational and a diplomatic flexible deterrent options. And it stunned the Russians. They had no idea that we had that good of intelligence on what they were doing, particularly the low-level photographs of the Russians and the Cubans firing their small arm AK-47s at the two RF-8s. One was flown by the squadron commander, Bill Emmers, I think his name is. I mean, just incredible stuff, okay? And Yui, you're exactly right. Landed and the pictures were there. And there's a famous interaction where Curtis LeMay asks this Bill Emmers guy, where you shot at? Where you shot at? And he goes, cakewalk, sir, because he knew, the squadron commander knew if LeMay knew that they'd been fired at, that he'd just go down and bomb the place. Anyway, that kind of information on the world stage is critical in these situations. And when the IAEA said they're enriching and they're close, that's when the Israelis said, we can't wait anymore. And off they went. So these kinds of missions have a lot of diplomatic cooperation and coordination behind them. There's a lot of information that comes from them. And of course, we have the ability to collect all kinds of photographic communications, signals, intelligence that we can go on the world stage and go, hey, look, we even caught them on their cell phones talking about this. And I mean, there's really a lot that they can do. So diplomatic, informational, military, and of course, economic. The economic fallout from this airstrike was supposed to cause gas to go to like $130 a barrel, and the Straits of Hormuz to shut down, which may or may not happen. I don't know. We'll see. But the economic piece of this really hasn't materialized. And a matter of fact, oil, Brent crude has kind of stayed where it's at. Straits of Hormuz, the Iranian says the parliament says we're going to shut it down. But believe it or not, we haven't even a contingency plan for that. When I was at the Air Force's Operational Test and Evaluation Center at Curlin Air Force Base, we did what was called a joint technology demonstration, because we had to find out what's the best way to fight all these Iranian patrol boats that are going to come out and just clog the Strait of Hormuz. You'll never guess what the answer to that's what the solution was to that. The hogs, the A-10s. And they developed a maritime close air support mission set where they worked with the Navy, and particularly whoever is the surface warfare commander. And you have to understand how the Navy does their lanes. Okay. You have an air warfare commander, you have an undersea commander, you have a surface warfare commander, and the surface warfare commander is usually a cruiser or destroyer captain, and he's in charge of the whole surface warfare fight. And there was a couple pictures not too long ago that showed A-10s working with, I think it was the USS Carney, and they were kind of helping develop all this because of what was going on in Yemen. So the Hogs can do maritime close air support, as well as the F-15E Strike Eagles. And it's an interesting combination of weapons that the Strike Eagle will carry, GBU-12s and CBU-105 sensor fuse weapons. I saw some pictures of F-15E Strike Eagles from Lakenheath that were doing basically Strait of Hormuz combat air patrols loaded that way. All right. Let me answer some questions here. A lot of no-fly zones must have taken a lot of planning. Yeah, it does, Lenora. It takes a lot of planning, but it's astronomical amounts of gas. Those 7 B2s, 37-hour mission, getting refueled, I think every 5 to 6 hours on a 37-hour mission. They were taking about 80,000 pounds every time they hooked up. Do the math. That's like, what, close to 1 million pounds? Somebody do the math for me. 7 refuelings, 80,000 pounds each. That means each one of the B2s was taking on 1 million pounds of gas to fly there and back. That's one of the things that, and Lenora, when you, what's classified, bro? Tell me. Tell me what's classified. Not sure, Jiang Fu, what you're talking about. Because it's in open sources. They've interviewed some of the pilots. Anyway, so, there's, a lot of gas being passed, particularly to the fighters and the support airplanes. Before I get into some more of the specifics of this airstrike, we have a pretty considerable reconnaissance deck over there. We call it a recce deck. The WC-135 is there to collect. Its purpose is air sampling. And of course, what the WC-135 Distant Phoenix does, filter troll, I'll get to your question here in just a second. It collects air samples to make sure that there's basically no nuclear particles in the air that are going to make people sick. The Israelis attacked the reactor. They supposedly destroyed the reactor. How you do that is you use bunker busters through the dome into the rod pool and just bring all the concrete down on top of it. The WC-135, when Chernobyl blew up, they were flying as close to the Russian border as they could, collecting, to see what the radiation levels were. And they'll do the same in the Arabian Gulf. When you have ballistic missiles launching like this, more than likely the RC-135 Cobra Ball is watching all of this. It collects on space and missile technology and is a wonderful tool when you're talking anti-ballistic missile defense. Working with surface ships, working with the Patriot batteries, other air defense assets that are used for anti-ballistic missile defense. And that airplane gathers an incredible amount of intelligence that gives us a really, really good picture of where the ballistic missiles came from, what they're doing in the air, and where they're going. One of the other contingency operations that we had in Okinawa, Japan, was ballistic missile defense. As you well know, they have ballistic missiles in North Korea. They're selling them to the North Koreans. The North Koreans are selling them to the Iranians, have been for a long time. The test facility in Iran looks exactly like the test facility in North Korea, exactly like it, because they helped build it. And when you actually see all of the pieces of the intelligence, reconnaissance, and intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance deck working together against this stuff, I mean, it's incredible. I've seen it work in real time once on the opening day of the Shakhanah campaign of Iraqi freedom in March of 2003, when we had some ballistic missiles shot from Iraq over the top of Kuwait, heading toward Saudi Arabia. Patriot missile battery took them all out. Have you seen the video from Al Udeid last night? I'm about to do some posts on that. It's incredible. I mean, just incredible watching the Patriots go up. And there's one 49-second clip that shows the missiles going up, and a lot of the folks that I guess are there at the base watching it happen, and they're all cheering it on, and it's fabulous to listen to it. Not suitable for work because of the language, but incredible to watch. Patriot PAC-3 missiles. Okay, all right. Let me look through here. Zhang Fu, you still haven't told me why this is all classified. This is all open source stuff, and some of it's even in my book. Yui, yes, Yui, I gave him an American flag. He also, Yui, did the forward for my book, Tanker Pilot, that you see over there by my helmet, or over here by my helmet. Sorry. Very good, very dear friend, and was absolutely instrumental in helping our family when my 15 and 6 and turned 16-year-old son was battling bone cancer. So let's go down. How far? Lenora, how far up are they when they drop? You know what? That's all part of mission planning, and it may be at different altitudes. Because again, you got 7 B-2s going across the target area, and they may be at different altitudes. Okay. So Yui, if you're going to get my book, don't get it off of Amazon. Contact me, DM me, and I'll send you my email. All right. Because we just reprinted the book. Amazon, the pictures are in black and white. The ones we reprinted, the pictures are all in color. 32 color pictures in the book, Tanker Pilot. Okay. Filter Troll, again, DM me either through here on YouTube or through my TikTok at Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Serra. I don't know if we can DM on YouTube, but I know on TikTok and Instagram you can. All right. I sell the book for $20. Yui, depending on where you live, postage is a little different. So I'll probably charge $27, for the postage, cover the postage. Obviously, I will put a personal note in every book that I send you guys, and I do not get any of the proceeds from the book. All of the proceeds for the sale of Tanker Pilot that I have go to the Airlift Tanker Association, a 501c3. So the book is tax deductible, at least in the States. Okay. Lenora, again, to get back to your question, it depends on mission planning, because you're trying to stack these airplanes all on top of each other. So not only are they deconflicted by altitude, but they're also deconflicted by timing and maybe by lat long too. All right. It depends, because 7 airplanes going across the target area you have to worry about deconfliction between the airplanes so you don't run into each other. All right. Let's see. Where can I get? Yeah, filter. Just try me on Instagram. Okay. Yui, where are you at then? Yeah, you know what? The sale of the book goes to the Airlift Tanker Association's Heritage Fund and its Scholarship Fund. I'm trying to help other people, particularly young people, because I'm also on the Gail Halverson Candy Bomber Foundation. I'm trying to help young people become interested in career in aviation. And one of the reasons I wrote the book. Oh, Yui, easy, good. Miami, that's easy. Okay. Um, so just DM me either through Instagram or TikTok or something like that. Send me a message and I'll send you how to do it all. And yeah, you can pay for it through PayPal or Venmo. Filter Troll, Arizona, piece of cake. All right, let me see if there's any more comments down here. Any more questions? Yeah, phalanx. RDC, you brought up a good point too. If anything gets close to any of the surface ships, they've got obviously the 5-inch gun and the Sea Whiz also. And here's another interesting point that we found out during this joint technology demonstration, this JTD, is the hogs were a great tool for attacking these patrol boats, these small patrol boats. Okay. The other asset that was terrific at neutralizing these patrol boats, AC-130 gunships. Imagine that. I'll tell you something else that I found interesting. All of you hopefully are subscribers to my YouTube page and watch my Lessons from the Cockpit podcast. I did an interview with a good friend of mine who's a B-52 radar navigator, weapons school grad. And the B-52 has a new maritime mission also. I mean, it's always kind of had one, but ever since they've got the sniper targeting pod, it's become an even greater asset because it flies for so long, hours at a time before it needs refueling. It's got that sniper pod on it. The sniper pod can be information can be data linked. The streaming video can be data linked to air operation centers. How many of you know that they have used B-52s for anti-drug illicit substance interdiction in the Southcom region, in the Caribbean, and the Gulf of Mexico? I didn't know that until I talked to Chico in this episode of my podcast. The other thing it does, after the hurricanes have come through the Gulf, they wanted to go to all of the oil platforms and see what the damage was. And some smart B-52 guy says, let us do it. We got this sniper pod. We can take pictures and we take video and show you exactly what the damage is. Particularly if we're flying low, we can just zoom right in on top of it. And so the B-52s were flying these hurricane damage assessment missions at about 5,000 feet. They put the sniper pod on the oil platforms just to see what the damage was. And they, fly around it and take all kinds of great pictures and then data link it back to shore. And the Department of Energy would look at them to see, hey, is there any problems here? And they found out, nope, So the B-52 has some very unique things that it does. Okay. Let's get into the actual airstrike. Folks, you have to understand these airplanes, the B-2s are coming from a long ways away. And a lot of people have asked me, well, I mean, how do you meet up? Well, you have a latitude, longitude, an altitude, and a time. Those three things make up what we call an air refueling control point. And some of these air air refueling happens on tracks that are already in the system, but sometimes they're um, just blocks of altitude between two latitude longitudes at an altitude. Okay, 28,000 feet. Meet here at this time, and you just do your mission planning from that. I'll take off in my tanker from Morone, Spain, to be overhead a track in the Mediterranean at a latitude, longitude, altitude, and time, and I just figure out, okay, how do I get there? What time do I need to take off? But when you have 100 airplanes meet up, or 125, 100 to 125 airplanes meet up, that's very complicated because obviously you have to have deconfliction. What I understand is the B-2s had F-35s, F-22s out in front of them. They were also carrying weapons that they dropped on certain things. Obviously, they had Predators overhead, all of these places. Don't know if we'll see that video anytime soon. But when you have these big strike packages that are going in, you have to have a place, where they all can meet up and move out. There's timing involved. How far out do you want the F-22s and F-35s in front of the B-2s? All of those things are worked out in advance so that when they get there, it goes off without a hitch. Now, I will tell you that whenever you're doing something like this, it involves weapons school graduates and Top Gun graduates. Those are the most highly trained in the Navy and Marine Corps where Top Gun is concerned, and the Air Force's weapons school, obviously, where the Air Force assets are concerned. There's a B-2 weapons school, F-35 weapons school, F-22 weapons school, tanker weapons school, AWACS weapons school. And all of those folks will get together and work on this plan. And like I said, the contingency plan may have been in a bag on a shelf for a long period of time at Global Strike Command in Offutt Air Force Base or down at 8th Air Force in Barksdale, Louisiana. It just depends. All right. And when you're going to do this, you bring all your smart people together and you just start nugging out the problem. How much gas is going to require, where and when, and what time are you going to meet the tankers? Where, when, and how are you going to bring the whole force together with the F-35s, F-22s, F-15Es, everybody at some points where they'll all meet up and push out in front of the B-2s. It doesn't sound like everything I've heard, the integrated air defense system was just non-existent. So some of the airplanes, there may have been F-16 doing the Wild Weasel mission. There was just nothing to react to. And the other day, I can't remember where, it may have been on TikTok or Instagram. An Israeli news group was interviewing one of their Strike Eagle pilots. And what he said was really interesting. He said that when their strike packages, the Israeli strike packages come in, the Iranian fighters have been taking off, but they just kind of like meet and pool in one area to get out of the way. They literally have not challenged the Israeli Air Force coming into Iran. And of course, why should they? These airplanes, which I found fascinating, some of them were carrying older AIM-7 Sparrow missiles, as well as AIM-120 AMRAAM missiles. But of course, as all of you know, or may not know, the Israelis have an incredible, heat-seeking missile called Python 45. And folks, it is a fantastic missile. All right. Has a bigger warhead than an AIM-9X. And Lenora, I'm not going to put my email out. All right. I don't want to get bombarded. You just have to get a hold of me, DM me through TikTok or Instagram. And I'm very reluctant to give people my email. All right. So just contact me, DM me through one of those. Okay. Anyway, the first time they use some of these missiles, it has a bigger warhead. So when it hits the opposing airplane, it just blows it to pieces. And the first time they used one of these Python missiles was back a while ago. And I think it was one of their great aces. His name is Moishe Melnick. Hit, I think, a MiG-21, shot a MiG-21 with one of these things. And it literally blew the airplane into pieces. And I guess he said over the intercom, again, with the tape running, the HUD tape running and everything like that, oh my God. So they call it the oh my God missile. Because when it hits something, it just powders it, makes it into powder. And the F-16I SUFAs, all of their F-16s have been carrying them. F-16s have been carrying AMRAAM, AIM-120s. But I just found it fascinating that the F-15 CD models, the light grays, and the Strike Eagles were carrying Sparrows. Older missile, older technology, not near as capable as an AIM-120. But I've also seen mixed loads too. And I've seen mixed loads even on our own F-15s where you had Sparrows in the front, AMRAAMs in the back on the fuselage. And that was because of some of the capabilities of the Sparrow against certain enemy aircraft. And you're also configured for an AIM-120 shot with the AIM-120s on it. So they're carrying 4 AIM-120s, 2 AIM-7s, and 2 AIM-9s, and subsequently AIM-9X. So, I mean, this guy just said they're really not a factor because they'll take off and they'll just go somewhere to kind of get out of the way, and then they come back and land when it's all over with. They really haven't challenged the Israeli Air Force nor the U.S. Air Force. So when you go into a situation on a contingency mission like this, and there's literally no air threats or ground threats, it makes it easy, but you're still very aware of what's happening around you because you never know when they'll sneak one of these things off. I believe that their air defense system of Iran has been totally taken apart kinetically and non-kinetically. They just don't have it. They just can't do it. And every time they try to do something, the system is completely overwhelmed. And as I mentioned, go read the Wikipedia write-up on Operation Out of the Box, because there's a whole section in there on the electronic battle that took place on that night on September 6th and 7th when the entire Syrian air defense network went down. Crazy stuff. Okay, let's look. Yeah, Yui, you're absolutely right. And like I mentioned, Yui, there's now electronic plane spotters that are watching all this stuff. And guess what? The one base they watch all the time, Whiteman Air Force Base, where the B-2s are. Yeah, filter troll. A lot of this is done in advance. Like I said, you have to get all the country clearances, and sometimes the country clearances have a 5-day period on them where you have to tell a country 5 days prior that, hey, we're going to fly through your airspace and we're going to put tankers on your ramp. So there's some lead time to this. But here's the thing, folks. I am just shocked and amazed that nobody saw this coming, and our allied partners didn't say a peep about it. That's saying something. Because, like I said, I don't think you get a Spanish, what they call PPR number into Morón, Spain overnight. All right. Yeah. Feed us the news when they want us to hear it. You know what, folks? There's a lot of disinformation and misinformation that's being tossed around with this Midnight Hammer airstrike. A lot. Go listen to General Dan Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And there's one slide that he has that shows the package movement, which is really good. Okay. Really good. And again, and some of the time we may not tell our allies, our NATO allies, this is what we're doing. We just need to put tankers down at your spot. And they all get it. Oh, Americans are up to something crazy again. They get it. And you're right, RDC. You can't win. And of course, there's a lot of people in Congress on both sides of the aisle. All right. Republicans and Democrats that have said Trump should have come talk to us first. Trump should have come talk to us first. Even to the point of we have to impeach him now. But Hegseth, Secretary Hegseth, was debriefing Congress on this operation, and some of the Democrats really went after him. And you know what? He shot right back. In the 8 years of the Obama administration, do you know how many weapons he released on targets during that time period? That 8 years? I actually found a number. 26,171 weapons released on different target sets. And again, the drone assassination program started under Obama's watch. You really have to go back and look at history, because a lot of people, are saying, oh, the War Powers Act, the War Powers Act. All right. Remember, I mentioned this is a flexible deterrent option. It's not full up war. We're not going in to go waste Iran. Have you noticed we haven't gone after any religious leader or target? Have you noticed I have not heard of one Iranian civilian casualty? And please, folks in the chat, tell me if you have heard of that, because I'd like to know if there's a number to that. This has been very, very surgical, very surgical. And I just find it fascinating that there are some people whose heads are just exploding over the fact that Donald Trump is about to start World War III. No. He has said over and over again, he is trying to de-escalate what's going on. Yeah, you're right, Yui. All military targets. I mean, think of the precision that they have going after all of these Iranian leaders. The Iranian chief of staff was eliminated on the first night. His replacement was eliminated, 48 hours, 72 hours later? Which means they've got special forces on the ground. How many of you know that there's about 100 to 105,000 Jews living in Iran that are actually protected under parliamentary rules? I did not know that until one of my Jewish friends from Israel said that. Where are the 4 largest populations of Jews in the world? Do you know? The first one is not Israel. It's New York. The second one, Los Angeles. Largest populations of Jews. Third one, surprised me, Moscow, Russia. Israel is 4th as far as large populations. I did not know that there was that many Jews in Iran, and they're protected from the government. And you always hear, death to America, death to Israel, and they've got all these Jewish people living there in Iran and have been since biblical times, and somehow they're protected. Filter. I had no idea. Until I talked to one of my Israeli F-16 buddies. It just floored me when I heard that. 100,000 Jews living in, and a majority of them live around Tehran and run businesses. And again, folks, we have no issues with the Iranian people. Our only issue is the religious regime and their quest for nuclear weapons. And so far, everything has been restricted to that. The military that props up the religious regime and their nuclear program. Now, somebody asked a question up here. Let me look. Let me go through it just real quick. Somebody asked a question up here. Yui, they don't fly Kafirs anymore. They've all been replaced by F-16s, and then the older F-16s, the A models, B models that they had, are being replaced in those squadrons by F-35s. So the Kafirs are now either flying with private bandit companies here in the United States or are in museums. Okay. So one of you asked up a little bit farther, what do I think is going to happen here in the United States? Sleeper cells here in the United States. Yes, I do believe they're here. How many of you saw the video of a Middle Eastern man just saying, I'm coming into your country, I'm going to stir things up, I'm going to cause chaos, and there's nothing you can do about it? All right. Believe me, they're trying to find that guy. But those people are here. I just saw today, God, what city was it? They arrested 7 Iranian former Republican Guard Army soldiers. One of them was a sniper in a city in the United States. I'll have to see if I can find that article. Okay, I can't remember where I saw it, but I saw it in 2 different places, not just one place. Okay, so I have always believed that there are Islamic enemies to the United States and our values that are living inside the United States, and they're probably waiting to get a phone call or a text message. So all of you, be vigilant of your surroundings. There's going to be more of this kind of conflict, I believe, here in the States. I believe it's going to happen. I'd be willing to bet it's going to happen in cities that have very liberal governments. You haven't seen any problems in Oklahoma. Haven't seen any problems where you can conceal carry a gun. Now, there have been, even here in Salt Lake, where I live, there have been protests. But guess what? You had the anti-ICE people on one side and they had the pro-Trump people on the other side. It lasted an hour. And when it was all over with, they all went across the street, started shaking hands and talking to each other. Folks, that's the way it's supposed to be. Because you disagree with me, you're not my enemy. You just have a difference of opinion. It's when you try to enforce that opinion on me that I get a little frosty and begin to wonder your motives. But again, it was the craziest thing, man. They had all these people at this protest, this anti-ICE and pro-Trump protests on two different sides of the streets. Okay, up in Salt Lake City, and there was a lot of people. And when it was all over with, they all just went, "Hey, okay, time's up," and they all kind of met in the middle of the street and started talking to each other. And that's the way it's supposed to be. You don't have people going into businesses and burning them down. And those cities that allow that, those people should go on trial and be jailed that allow that to happen. And it's people in our own government and the state and local governments, councilmen and women, mayors. Look what's happening in LA. Look what may be happening in New York. There is a guy who is an avowed socialist running for mayor, and he's ahead right now. And if he becomes mayor of New York, say goodbye to New York City. He's already talking about taxing the rich, letting people squat in homes. I mean, all kinds of things. How did that happen, folks? How did we let that happen? I don't get it. Anyway. All right, folks, we're approaching an hour and a half. Do we have any more questions? Yeah, Huey, Congress looking for re-election. Oh, filter troll. The mass shooting thing, I don't even want to get into because you know what? It just makes all my liberal friends mad. We're a constitutional carry state here now with the new governor. You can get your concealed carry permit, but it's not required anymore. So, yeah, filter troll. Half of Arizona are carrying. But you go to states like Oklahoma, Texas, in certain areas. Obviously Austin, Texas, isn't one of them. But you go to some of these places and you think to yourself, "Holy smokes, man!" The streets of Los Angeles, and I understand from family members and friends that live in LA, it's only in a certain area of LA that they go to and report all of this on the news. Okay. Stopping the 405 freeway in the middle of downtown. It happens in downtown, right? If you were to have somebody try and stop up a freeway in Texas, you're going to get run over. They don't tolerate it there. Same thing in Oklahoma City. You haven't seen anything, any news about all of this turmoil in other states than California, Oregon, Washington, Illinois, Massachusetts, New York. Large populations. And I still feel there's something going on there, right? They interviewed a gal and she was saying, "I haven't worked since I was 27. I don't need to," because they fund her going to all these protests. I'm getting off topic here. Let's return to military stuff. Okay. I spent 24 and a half years in the military, folks. I had the opportunity to do some very, very fascinating things. 10 catapult assisted takeoffs, 10 arrested landings on 8 aircraft carriers. I've even driven an aircraft carrier while it was refueling. I was a joint warfighter, and I'm a designated weapons school graduate and joint specialty officer. And hey, filter troll, it's okay, brother, because again, this is all part of this fight. All of you go back and listen to my 111th episode. In the first hour, I talk about the 15 modalities of war that were postulated by 2 Chinese Air Force colonels in an Air War College white paper that they wrote called Unrestricted Warfare. And it'll open your eyes. And I have a picture of that chart in the video. The other publication you should go find is by Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters of the Army. And the document is 37 pages long, and it's called When Devils Walked the Earth. It talks about practical terrorists versus apocalyptic terrorists. But the last 5 or 6 pages have what's called superpower do's and don'ts. So all of you, please, if you're not subscribed to my podcast, please go do that, or my YouTube channel. Please go do that. And listen to episode 111, where I talk about the 15 modalities of war from unrestricted warfare and the 25 superpower do's and don'ts. Because right now, folks, those are the things we need to be following. The 25 superpower do's and don'ts. And the 15 modalities of war are on the news every day. Environmental terrorists, cultural terrorists, economic terrorism, it's all going on. Gang warfare is one of them. Okay? And information network warfare, all those things. These 2 Air Force colonels wrote this paper to say, you cannot take on the United States military in a conventional fashion. You will get beat to a pulp. And the only way to do it that basically fights their values, okay, because we're not going to go after women and children, invalids and old age people, but this paper says we will. Unrestricted. There are no rules. And they talk about fighting in these 15 areas. So please go look at that. Yeah, absolutely. Filter Troll. Yeah, go check it out. It was the last one I did. I'm going to do another one tomorrow on a lot of this midnight hammer operation. Okay. A lot of it is stuff you've heard, tonight. So, Jason, thanks for going and take a look at it. It's long. I'm sorry. It's 2 hours and 17 minutes, but there's a lot of information in it, because I talk about the Iran-Israel conflict, and then I talk about our flexible deterrent options. And guess what? 3 days later, one of those military flexible deterrent options was Operation Midnight Hammer. All right. What do we got here? Folks, thank you. I didn't think I'd do this tonight, and it turned out pretty good. We've got 25 people watching right now, which is good. Since this is my 3rd time I've done this. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate all of you taking the time to sit and listen to a knuckle dragon tanker pilot who has been around the block a few times. Not my first rodeo. Was involved in a lot of things, has a lot of experience. Please DM me if you'd like my book, Tanker Pilot Lessons from the Cockpit. Please don't go to Amazon to buy it. I have paperback copies with the color pictures in the book. And again, RDC, you bring up a good point. You don't do this often. I'm going to try and do this every Tuesday and Thursday nights from now on. I'm going to spend more time on my YouTube channel. I've done TikTok lives, and TikTok has gone downhill. Posts that I have done recently that would have got millions of views gets maybe 9,000. So I don't spend a lot of time on TikTok anymore. That's the reason why. Instagram, I spend time on, but I'm making a promise to all of you. I'm going to spend more time live here. I'm going to spend more time with my podcasts. And please join my Patreon All Ranks Club to support us. If you want to just put some money in the tank, my Venmo is in my last episode 111. That's what keeps us going. And of course, my digital artwork, wallpilot.com. You can see the tanker right here above my head. That was my tanker when I was flying at Kadena. It's 8874. And pretty soon, folks, I'm going to have some apparel for you too. Some really cool apparel, aviation apparel that has that tanker on it. And Wayne Rao, welcome. Haven't talked to you for a long time. Yeah, Michelle, I finally got some swag. Okay. Filter Troll, I don't know what super chats are. You're one of many that has asked me about, though. Okay. I don't know if I've got that turned on or what. I really don't. Let me look into that, Filter Troll, and find out if I've got super chats. Okay. I'm a little new to this, but fortunately, I have a very patient wife who has helped me get through this, and a son, my oldest son, who's a genius at social media. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Wayne, Filter Troll. I had no idea. I got to look into that. I appreciate that. I wonder when I turned it on. Super chat, Yui. Thank you. People donate. I appreciate that. Again, Patreon club is called All Ranks Club, which is if you go to episode 111, it's got the link to that. Wall Pilot is where I do the prints. These are 4, 6, and 8 foot printed on vinyl. You peel off and stick to any wall. If you join my Patreon club at the designated driver and buy the bar, I send you every month a 7-inch sticker for like your water bottle or the back of your computer or whatever you want to put it on. Okay. Let's see. I got ME-109, P-51, F-4, F-105, bunch of cool airplanes. And I'm working on 15 more. Okay. Wayne, I got C-141s. I just drew C-141 for a guy. So thank you. I appreciate you guys donating and showing me something I didn't know. Are there any other questions? Jason, like the sound of that. Hey, folks, if you'll excuse me for 1 minute, I just need to go behind the camera. Would you like to see some of these 7-inch stickers that we've done? Just put it down here in the chat. If you'd like to see some of these stickers, and I'll show you some of them. Again, I've got 10 of them right now. And if you join my Patreon club at the Designated Driver and All Ranks Club, I can I send one out every month. Okay. And we're working on 15 more. Okay. All right. So it'll take me literally less than 30 seconds to do this because they're just behind me in the thing here. So I'll be right back. Okay, folks, thank you for being patient with me. Okay. No sticker pack would be complete without an F4. These are stickers that I drew. This is 7 inches long. This is F4 called Diane from Linebacker. It's loaded for a SAM mission, okay? And anti-SAM, so it's got CBUs on it, okay? Now, let me hold it up here a little closer. That doesn't do it much justice, does it? Anyway, but just to show you, it peels off, okay? And it's 7 inches long, so it fits on water bottles, computers. And here's the great thing about this, okay? This is my wife's doing, by the way. She's a great marketeer. They're dishwasher safe. I've had one on a water bottle for a year, and it hasn't come off yet. Has not come off yet, okay? So that's the F4. And who loves Tomcats? I do. Okay. This is the squadron commander's jet from the F-31 Tomcatters. It is configured like it was the first night of the shock and awe campaign. This airplane went to downtown Baghdad and is loaded, as you see, with AIM-9, AIM-54 Phoenix, and JDAM. And the map behind it is Baghdad and Baghdad International Airport, where these guys were going, okay? Yeah, filter troll. It should go on a coffee cup. Like I said, measure the coffee cup because they're exactly 7 inches long, okay? Got to have an F-117. This was the F-117 that was had a good friend of mine's name on it. Pat Ellis, call sign Hoser. Hoser came into the Air Force, enlisted, and was a fireman. Got his degree, went to pilot training, had been flying ever since he was a kid, got F-15s, and went on a headquarters tour. They says, well, you're not going back to F-15s. He goes, what do you mean? I got to fly. I want to fly. I want to fly. He says, well, the only openings we have is F-117s. He goes, I take it. I'd love to. Okay. So, and again, this peels off and can stick on coffee cup, water bottle, back of computers, walls. I sell them as packs of 10, all 10 of them. You can buy for $30. All right, if you want them that way. Okay. All right. This is a cool one. I like doing this one. This is an F-15E Strike Eagle. This F-15 has 11 drone and cruise missile kills from the night of the 6th and 7th of April of last year, 2024. This was part of the F-15E Strike Eagle wall that was protecting Israel on the night of the 6th and 7th of April when 300 plus drones, cruise missiles, and ballistic missiles were launched to Israel. And they had an 8-ship wall, across Jordan and Syria. This airplane has nose art on it. It's called Claw and Kitty. It is loaded the way it was that night. Okay, so it's got 4 AMRAAMs, 4 Sidewinders, AIM-9X, and on the center line, you don't see it. You can hardly see it because of the wing tank. It's got the Dragon Eye pod, which is this really cool airborne electronically scanned array radar pod that they put on F-16s and F-15E Strike Eagles. Really, really good for ground targets and hunting for ground things. Okay, so that's one of them. All right. Folks, here's the crazy thing. I didn't do a KC-135. I didn't do a KC-135. Instead, I did a KC-46. This is the KC-46 from the New Hampshire Air National Guard, and it's nicknamed Peggy because the airplane's called Pegasus. And the gal, Shane Meter, who painted the tail like that, just nicknamed the airplane Peggy. I happened to be out on the ramp at the Air National Guard base there at Portsmouth at Pease Air National Guard base, was able to walk down the airplane, take pictures of it. And folks, this is really, really detailed. I mean, every stinking line, even the IR missile defense system, the laser Larkham is even on this thing. Okay. And of course that's Pease and Boston aeronautical chart behind it. All right. And then this is the F-15C. This was a triple MiG killer during Desert Storm, was the wing commander's airplane, Colonel Parsons, who sadly just passed away not too long ago. This was his F-15, and it is configured exactly the way it was configured when it was flying Desert Storm air missions, okay? Four sidewinders, four Sparrows. You know, the Sparrows are kind of behind the tank. You know, there you can see one, you know, on the aft fuselage station. But that is, again, the desert south of Baghdad where a lot of the MiG kills took place. So that's where that one comes from. Now, these are kind of like calling cards. You can see Marcus Sarah lessons from the cockpit, and of course, wallpilot.com on these. Okay. 7-inch stickers. They peel off. They are dishwasher proof. And like I said, I've had them on my water bottle for over a year, and they have not come off. If you become a Patreon channel subscriber at the designated driver or by the bar, you receive one of these in the mail every month. There's 10 of them, but we're working on 15 more to include the U2 senior spur with the big antenna on top, another F4, an F-105F Ryan Raider, a C-54 from the Berlin Airlift, a F Focke-Wulf F-190, a P-51 called Ain't Misbehaving. Anyway, that's what these are all about. Yeah, Lenora, I know. I wish I had a split screen. I'm a little technically challenged when it comes to that, okay? Yeah, Huey, you're absolutely right. There was a Marine, and he got a MiG kill, okay? Sly McGill was his name, okay? Oh, Jason, that's not good. Zohan Mamdini actually won the primary race. Okay. That's a little disconcerting. Anyway, so those are some of the 10 that I've gotten. All right. Again, if you DM me and want the whole pack, I sell it for $30 and or become a Patreon member. Your choice. All right, folks. Again, thank you for being with me today. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate that. I learned something new tonight, and I appreciate you sending some money my way. I really do. I'll be here again Thursday night, 8 o'clock Mountain Time. So that, wait a minute. Oh, we started at 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock Mountain Time. I'll be back and please come with questions or something you want to talk about. All right. I taught at the Joint Forces Staff College. I taught campaign planning at the Joint Forces Staff College for 3 years. I can talk to you about undersurface, surface, and above surface warfare. I'm skilled in all of that. And of course, we're going to see some pretty interesting operations from undersurface, surface, and above surface, I think, here in the next few weeks. All right, folks. Thanks for joining. I got to get something to drink. I got a dry mouth. Juice Junkie, welcome back. JMS, it's getting spicy. Yeah, ain't that the truth? Questioning Japan. Yeah, questions. Oh, that's opening Pandora's box. I don't know if you're trying to offend me or compliment me there. I know where that was headed. I've been in a submarine. And believe me, that's an Air Force appreciation kind of visit, okay? You really appreciate that you went to the right recruiter when you go down inside of a submarine. But I have 2 very dear friends of mine that are both submariners, both sonar techs. And to hear their stories, one of them is writing a book about it now too, is amazing, particularly when they're launching Tomahawk land attack missiles. Anyway, Alpha Mike Foxtrot to you too, brother. Pixel Bros, I stepped on at one time, and like I said, I appreciate that I was in the Air Force. All right, folks, we just go on like this forever. Okay, Filter Troll, if you have a lot of questions, then, dude, let's talk about it Thursday night, 7 o'clock Mountain Time, okay? JMS, I am working on one of these stickers. It's in the next pack of 15. It's the Senior Spur airplane that's got the long nose and the big antenna on top. So you will have a U2 7-inch sticker, right? We found a great printer that does a fantastic job on these and does them very quickly. So you'll see more of these. All right, folks, I'm just rambling now. Take care. Have a good night. And let's talk again Tuesday. Please have questions ready, okay? I'll be up around 7 o'clock p.m. Thursday night, and we'll go talk about more.